Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, traders. This is Ed FX Trader again for another trading video. Okay, before we begin, understand that there's risk involved in trading the forex market. You should not invest money that you cannot afford to lose. Always keep equity management in mind. Understand that I'm neither licensed nor regulated by the Trading Commodity Advisor or by the Financial Services Commission. These videos are for educational purposes only and should be understood as such. Please also understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, all right? And understand the risk and the reward, and you are free to make your own trading decisions. Okay, so in this video, we're going to continue focusing on trend lines, but in particular, we're only going to focus on downtrend line. Now, this is a live market. This is the New Zealand dollar versus the Canadian dollar. This is a 1 hour time frame. And what I'm going to do in this video is that this is a live market, and I'm on the 1 hour time frame. We're going to draw our downtrend lines. As we can see, the market is making lower lows and lower highs. It's going down, so we're going to draw our downtrend line, so that will be able to tell us when the downward movement has ended and that we should stop, sell, and start buy. Once the market is in the sell zone, we want to sell. When the market is in the buy zone, we want to buy, and we will use our trend line to determine the buy zone and the sell zones. Okay, now we're going to look at different time frames but the same currency pair just to see how it will look. Alright, so I'm on the 1 hour time frame and I can clearly see that the market is going down. So what I want to do is identify my highest point. So let me just first do that. This will be my highest point up here, and my lowest point on the chart right now would be down here, somewhere down here. Okay, so that's my highest point and that's my lowest point. Having identified the highest point and the lowest point, I then now want to begin to draw my trend line. Okay, my downward trend line. That's what I want to be focusing on now. Okay, so let me clear the screen. What I want to now do is I'm going to start at the highest point, keeping in mind the lowest point, and I'm going to draw my trend line starting at the highest point. I'm going to draw it straight across, and then I'm going to slowly carry it down, right, until it touches the first candle. Right, when it touches the first candle, that will be my first trend line. I'm going down, and bam, touches the trend line there. Okay, so that is my first trend line. My next trend line will be, I will start the next trend line from the last candle that this trend line touch. So this now will become my highest point right here, and right, we already know the lowest point, and my next trend line will start. Right, sometimes if you wish, you can have more than 3 trend lines. It's just up to you how many trend lines you want to have on the screen. Right, so I'm going to grab the trend line and I use the trend line and I see bam right there. Okay. Right, so the one that it touched is actually the one up here. This touch this one up here. So if we go across and then we came down, so that it touched that one right up there first. Okay, so that will be my next trend line. So the last point that it touched would have been up here, but as you can see, this trend line would have been similar to here, right? So if I extend it, right, and I come in and I come in and I come in, then it will touch right there, right there. But this trend line, as you can see, is very similar to this trend line. So what we'll just simply do is disregard that one. Instead, we will use this highest point here. So this will give us a different trend line. If I use this point here, then my trend lines are going to cross, right? And we don't want our trend lines to cross. So I won't use that point. But instead, I will use this point here, and I will come down. If I draw it across and I come down, I can't stop here because this is not my lowest point. So I'm just going to be drawn through those candles, right, until the first candle before the lowest point, which should be here. Zoom in on that. Okay, so there you have it. My inner trend line, which is this one here, my outer trend line, which is right here, and then way over here is my long-term trend line. Okay, now what you observe is that the market remained downwards, and then now it has broken this trend line, right? So it is now in the buy zone of this inner trend line, but it is still in the sell zone of this outer trend line. Remember, the market, we divide the market into buy zones and sell zone using trend lines. That is one of the benefits of trend lines. Okay, so there you have your 3 trend lines, right? Starting from the highest point, we started from the highest point, draw trend line, and then we continue to go down. Okay, and there you have your downtrend lines. Now we're going to go to a higher time frame. We're just going to clear the screen, and let's go to the, let's say, the daily time frame. Very popular time frame. Let's look at the daily time frame. Right. And if I focus on the daily time frame, now if I focus right here, these are the trend lines that we just focused on the 1 hour time frame, right? So we won't use this highest point. Instead, we're going to zoom out, and we see that we had a highest point here, right? And the lowest point would have been down here. So what we're going to do this time around, let's just identify it, is that this is your highest point, and this is your lowest point. So we start at the highest point. Show what happened there. So it start at the highest point, right? So now we identify our highest point and lowest point, right? We're going to now draw the downtrend line. Right? Let me clear the screen. So again, I would start. At this point here, and I will go out and first touch there. Then I would look at last point, first one that it touched, and then I go out, go in, right? I'm going to draw this trend line just for the sake of, but I could have actually just started from this one. So now I'm going to start at this one, right? So trend lines must not cross when you're drawing down trend line and up trend line. So I draw this one out. I'm going to bring it in, right? This is my lowest point, so it's the candle, first candle that it will touch before this lowest point. So if we were to draw it out, the first candle that this trend line touches before reaching the lowest point, and that would be right there. So this would have been the candle that it touches before this lowest point, and there you will have your inner trend line, this one here, your outer trend line here, and your long-term trend line here. Now there are many lessons to trend lines, but first we have to know how to draw trend lines, right? Divide the market into sell zone and buy zone. You notice that if you focus on the long-term trend line, the market is still below the long-term trend line, right? So it still is below the long-term trend line. This outer trend line, the market has broken through the outer trend line. It goes up or near around the long-term trend line, and then it just falls, right? And here we are right now, right, where the market is touching the backside of this downtrend line, and there's that has great significance to it, right? But in future lessons I will teach you about that. So that's it for your downtrend line.